Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope I have beaten the flu. I don't know how many of you have had this flu. I don't know how many of you have it right now, maybe. But on Friday, about 10 a.m., I started thinking, man, I don't feel that good. And as like every 10 minutes from there, I got a little bit worse, if you guys know what that feeling when you're starting to get sick is. And by the end of the radio show, I was on fumes. Then I did Martha McCallum's Fox News show, and I actually did it with a puke bucket sitting beside me because I was like, oh my God, I think I might throw up like right now. And I was thinking about all that because I hope Colin Cowherd's going to be okay. I don't know how many of you have seen the clip. I've never had to do it, but he started off his show, and you could see it was like he looked like he was just going to be sick and throw up. And I don't know if he has the flu. I texted him. I hope he's going to be okay. But that's kind of how I felt right at the end of the day on Friday. I was supposed to be up in New York City, thanks to Joey Jones for stepping in and covering for me on Fox and Friends. I was supposed to take a flight. I finished that television show at 3:15, 2:15, I guess it was, Central Time. And I went downstairs. I texted everybody. I was like, I can't do this. I went and got in bed, and I was in bed the rest of the day Friday. Fevers, chills, just felt like death. Thank you for the Dr. Fauci memes from Greg, producer Greg on the show. He texted me. I looked at it on my phone, kind of lightly smiled, chuckled a very minor bit like you do when you're super sick. And then I spent all day, I was in bed for 48 hours. I don't remember the last time I was in bed for 48 hours. I'm typically pretty lucky. I haven't been sick like that in about a decade. I got really sick in LA about a decade ago on a Friday doing a college football preview show. I think I've talked about this. And I was supposed to fly, maybe it was a Thursday. I don't remember what day of the week it was, but it was right before the Alabama-Missouri SEC title game, and I was supposed to fly to Atlanta to cover it for Fox Sports, and we taped a college football title game preview show. And I remember by the end of that show, I was like, oh my God, I'm done. And I went back to my hotel room. I got underneath the covers. I was throwing up like crazy, and I said, I can't make this flight. And they rescheduled me. I don't even know how many days I stayed in that bed. We taped that show. I was in bed for a couple of days, and then eventually flew from L.A. to Atlanta. And I thought I was just going to poop myself. I felt like absolute death. I was in a coach class seat in the back. I've talked about this because the entire U.S. women's soccer team was also on the coach flying from L.A. to Atlanta, which is a long flight. It's a very long flight when you're trapped in the middle of the back in the coach and you're sweating bullets and you feel like at any point you're going to poop yourself. That's how I felt. That's the last time I was this sick. I watched probably 12 hours of basketball on Saturday, put on the Tennessee-Florida game, watched all the way through the Arkansas-Kentucky game. That's the most college basketball I've watched this year. Cautiously optimistic that I am back. I got to go watch an 8th grade basketball game here in a little bit. Otherwise, I'm trying to stay super chill Monday, Tuesday. And then I'm supposed to be down in New Orleans on Wednesday. Big game, obviously, there between the Eagles and the Chiefs as we get ready for Super Bowl 59. And we're going to have a ton of coverage for you from down in New Orleans. We've got a stage built, I'm told, on Radio Row, which is now Streaming Row, which is Multimedia Row. Biggest, best stage we've had for OutKick so far. I'm curious to see it. I will be doing a show Wednesday afternoon there, evening, Wednesday gambling special. And then from there, we'll kind of see how things go. But I'm excited to be down there. Lots to go on. So fingers crossed. If you are potentially thinking about this, I know the flu is running crazy everywhere. Everybody's got this thing. When I said I had it, everybody's like, I just had it. It just went through my family. Flu's back. Some of you said, by the way, why didn't you get the flu shot? I don't trust the flu shot anymore. You can call me a moron, call me whatever you want. After what they told us about COVID, I don't believe in the flu shot. I used to get the flu shot. I used to get the flu shot before COVID. I would go out. Usually, like I said, very healthy. I don't get sick very often. I'm fortunate I've got a home studio, but I don't remember the last time I missed a day of radio. I don't think I ever have for being sick. So I'm very fortunate in that way. But I didn't get the flu shot, and I don't think I'll be getting it going forward. I'm certainly not getting the 2-for-1 combo COVID flu shot. Some of you can make that choice. I'm not going to make that choice. And I think this is the downside of all the lies that we were told about COVID. I don't trust the so-called experts who are telling me which shots to take. I don't like Big Pharma, period. I don't like to take drugs. My wife picks on me because I won't even hardly take Tylenol or aspirin. I just don't like anything. I'm like a baseball player who doesn't wear batting gloves, I guess. Just kind of put me in there with the raw wooden bat and let me see what I can do. I don't know. I may be dead in a year anyway. Who knows? But I think I made it through the flu. We got the Eagles going up against the Chiefs this week. Don't miss out on the last football game of the year. Prize Picks, best place to win cash while watching that Eagles-Chiefs game. Prize Picks giving away a free pick, free square, kind of like in bingo, where you get an automatic win. All you need to do is pick Patrick Mahomes to throw for over 1/2 a yard. You cannot lose. That is a free square. You are going to win that one. That puts us closer to being able to win a multiplayer pick, and that is what I'm going to be giving out to you later in the week. Check out all the promos to tail any of the big game picks at prizepicks.com. You can win up to $1 million in promo funds. Again, I'll be playing. You can play in California. You can play in Texas. You can play in Georgia. 10 million players in 40-ish states nationwide. Download the app today. Use code OutKick to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is, download the app, Prize Picks. Use code OutKick. You get $50 after you play $5. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. Let's dive into some of these stories out here. I thought that I had fever-induced hallucination when I saw that Luka was essentially being traded for Anthony Davis. I think this is one of the worst trades that I can remember in modern sports history. You are giving up a 25-year-old Luka, who, when healthy, is one of the 5 best players in the NBA, for a 31-year-old Anthony Davis who is often injured and wants to play the 4 when he probably has more effect at the 5. And I know positions are less significant in today's NBA, but that doesn't necessarily fit with what the Mavs do. So I think this is a crazy bad trade for the Mavs. If you're a Dallas area sports fan, I feel bad for you because you invested in Luka. You've seen him grow to an NBA Finals level. Does he play elite defense? No. Does he seem like he's desperately committed to being great? No. Is his conditioning elite? No. All of those things I understand why you can question. They don't challenge the fact that he's 25 years old and one of the best 5 players in the NBA in general, and also that his ceiling, in theory, is still growing. So I think this is a disastrous decision by the Mavs. Why does this happen? We don't know. There's a story here that we're not being told. But what I would say in general is this is what would frustrate me if I were a Mavs fan. They didn't get top value. Adam, you can look up what the Phoenix Suns gave up to get Kevin Durant, and I know there's salary cap ramifications, meaning you have to be able to match dollars and all those things. But you're talking about a 25-year-old elite player just being traded. Cross sports, this would be like the Bengals saying, yeah, we're done with Joe Burrow. This would be like the Ravens saying we're done with Lamar Jackson, like the Bills saying we're done with Josh Allen, the Chiefs saying we're done with Patrick Mahomes. Those, to me, are the 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Even worse than that, it would also mean they didn't leak anything about this. And look, selective leaking can at times make a lot of sense for your team because it puts on notice the rest of the league that an elite playmaker is potentially available, and it allows you to survey all the offers that are coming in. To me, it is malpractice of an executive level to not let it be known to all of the NBA, hey, Luka's on the market. What's your best offer for him? There are 25 NBA teams, I bet, that would have put together some form of package to try to get Luka Doncic to their team. The fact that essentially the Mavs GM zeroed in on the Lakers and almost exclusively negotiated with them virtually guarantees that you don't get the top value added for your asset in Luka. So leaving aside the sports component to this, this is like selling your home that has tremendous value and there would be lots of bidders for when someone comes up and knocks on your door and you never negotiate with anybody else to find out how much they might be willing to pay. So this is what Brooklyn got for Kevin Durant, right, Adam? They got Michael Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, 4 unprotected future first-round picks for, at the time, 34-year-old Kevin Durant. That's what Brooklyn got from Phoenix in exchange for Kevin Durant, who's 34 years old. Would you rather have 34-year-old Kevin Durant or 25-year-old Luka Doncic? I don't think that's a remotely difficult question. Would you believe 4 unprotected future first-round picks to the Brooklyn Nets in conjunction with 3 additional players? Like, I look at this and I'm just like, this is crazy town. Congratulations to the Lakers. But if I'm a Mavs fan, not only am I furious that we traded Luka, I'm also furious that we didn't get fair value for the best asset that we have on our team. And I couldn't believe it was real. I couldn't believe it was real because trades like this don't happen. Now, contextualizing the trades. I think the worst trade in sports right now in the modern era, because you can go back and you can say, okay, Babe Ruth for cash, probably historically the worst trade in all of sports. And it led to the curse of the Bambino. Boston Red Sox, basically they have Shohei Ohtani back in the day. Babe Ruth, stud pitcher, greatest home run hitter of all time. And the Red Sox decide that they're going to sell Babe Ruth effectively for cash to the Yankees. Yankees go on to become the Yankees, winningest MLB franchise championship-wise of all time, on the back of Ruth and Maris and DiMaggio and Mantle, and on up to the present day where they haven't had the same level of success, but the Yankees are an iconic brand. Red Sox don't win anything for 100 years or whatever the heck it was. That's probably the worst trade in the history because you're just selling Ruth off for cash. But worst trades in modern history, I think the Deshaun Watson deal is the single worst deal that I can remember. $230 million guaranteed, multiple first-round picks from the Cleveland Browns to the Houston Texans. That was and is, I think, the worst deal out there. Most successful deal is what I tweeted. Now, Dallas is on both sides. Herschel Walker from the Cowboys to the Vikings in exchange for most of the picks that allowed the Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones era Dallas Cowboy dynasty to take root. Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, that entire era of the Dallas Cowboys as America's team was founded on the decision to move on from Herschel Walker, who at that point in time was the most popular Dallas Cowboy. Minnesota Vikings mortgaged their future to try to win immediately with Herschel Walker. undervalue the assets of draft picks. Dallas drafts brilliantly with those picks, builds a Super Bowl winning team. What do they win? 3 championships, 2 with Jimmy Johnson, 1 with Barry Switzer, if I'm remembering correctly. And that's still the foundational underpinning of Jerry Jones' entire tenure as a great owner. Sorry, Cowboy fans, there hasn't been a lot of winning since. So now you've had the best trade for a Dallas area sports franchise that led to multiple championships, and you've now got the worst trade in my mind. I couldn't believe that it was real. But that was my immediate takeaway from the Luka news. Also, we'll see what it means for Luka. I feel like there had to be something behind the scenes. They didn't believe in Luka. They didn't think that he was going to be able to perform at a level that would justify a $300 million plus Supermax. I think that's crazy for a 25-year-old. I think this GM is going to lose his jobs in a couple of years. And I think Anthony Davis is likely going to get injured, as he always does, probably before this season is over. I question whether he'll actually finish the season. And for LeBron, I don't see Luka and LeBron. I know the odds change drastically. That's natural. A lot of people pour in money. I don't see necessarily Luka and LeBron playing side by side well together, personally. I think this move is not for now. I think it's for the future. And if I were advising LeBron, I would say, hey, it's time to see if you can facilitate a trade to a team that might be able to contend for a championship in the future. Because I see Luka and LeBron as similar players in that they need the ball in their hands to be able to distribute and facilitate to others. I think the LeBron-AD pairing makes more sense than the Luka-LeBron pairing. I actually think this is the Lakers, to a large extent, turning the page on the LeBron era. So if I were LeBron, I would be thinking about trying to move on. Now, it's a lot of NBA talk, but I think it's justified because I think it's one of the most holy crap, is this real moments that we've seen in recent sports history when it came to trades, such that when the news broke, I legitimately thought I was being pranked. For a minute, I thought it was April Fool's. I thought it was my fever. I couldn't believe that it was real. Okay. Other things that are going on out there. I think this is significant. There's a front page article in the New York Times that has to do with things that people care about. This is how Americans rank personal and party priorities. This is from the New York Times. This morning I was reading it, and I don't think it's going to shock you, but it would square with a lot of what I have said if you listen to this program a lot. But the question is, what do Americans themselves care about personally? The 5 issues that they care about the most. Remember, I said Trump wins EBC. It's as easy as economy, border, crime. Those were, to me, the 3 most significant issues of 2024. Now, what do Americans care about present day, January 2025? Number 1, the economy. Makes sense. Get the economy roaring. That's what people care about the most politically. 2, healthcare, particularly what healthcare costs, frustrations with insurance. I totally get that. 3, immigration. I would suggest this is declining because Trump has already done such a phenomenal job fixing immigration. It's like nobody wants to talk about it, but virtually the border is shut down now. Nobody's illegally coming into the country. We went from a wide open border where 10, 12, 15,000 people could cross a day to where there's only a couple of hundred, and those numbers continue to decline. Immigration is 3rd. Taxes 4th. Taxes are too high. They need to come down. Crime is 5th. So economy, border, crime, still very high. Taxes, healthcare. But those are the 5, okay? What do Republicans care about, according to the public? Immigration, I think that's fair. The economy, I think that's fair. Taxes. So 3 things that the country cares about the most, Americans, that Republican Party is addressing. Immigration, the economy, taxes. Then people say Republicans care about guns and they care about abortion. Okay? What does the Democrat Party care about? So whatever you think, there is a sort of mirroring going on here between what Republicans care about and what people in the nation care about. And that makes sense, right? Because ultimately, the job of a politician is to respond to which the constituents care about. What do Americans consider to be the top priorities of Democrats? Abortion, I think that's fair. LGBT policy, I think that's fair. Climate change, the state of democracy, healthcare. The top 4 things the Democrat Party cares about, most people don't care about that much. Abortion, it's a state issue. The number of abortions, despite all the fear-mongering out there, has actually gone up since Roe v. Wade was overturned. LGBT policy, I would argue it's really just trans policy because I don't think there's that many gay people out there. In fact, I said this on Clay and Buck earlier. I bet Trump got more gay voter support in 2024 than any Republican ever has because I think most gay people are like, yeah, we're treated fairly. Trans people are different than us. It's not really the same thing. Climate change, come on. Nobody cares about climate change as a top issue right now. State of democracy, come on. Democrats just selected a new DNC chair, and they are trying to argue, hey, the new DNC chair did, our issue is one of messaging. I think that's totally wrong. People know what Democrats stand for, and they actually disagree with most of it. And Democrats aren't addressing the issues they care about the most. The only overlap between issues perceived Democrats care about and the ones that Americans care about is health care. Everything else is a swing and a miss. They are a broken political party, not because people don't understand their message, but because they got the message. They don't care about you, and therefore the voter doesn't care about them. And this is why Democrats, according to Quinnipiac, are at 58% disapproval right now, the worst party approval in 15 years. And I thought this kind of personified that. I flagged it from the article. And to me, it was kind of symptomatic of this. Just 4% of Americans listed LGBTQ issues as very important to them. But 31% said they were a Democrat Party priority. So, again, this is significant, but they are addressing things that the American public doesn't think are very important and making it the foundational element of their party. And so I questioned, hey, sometimes when you lose, it's easy to be like, the reason we lost is because we didn't get our message out. You had $1.5 billion. You outspent Trump. You bought more ads. You had more media support. You had more famous people endorsing you. The problem wasn't people didn't know your message. The problem was your message doesn't actually address the concerns of Americans. Like, take it outside of politics. If I ran a media company like OutKick and all we did all day long was write about polo and lacrosse, and our website existed to just cover polo and lacrosse related issues, no one would read it. I'm not a genius here. When I started in local sports talk radio, we had a meeting and I said we should talk about football every day. They're like, well, sometimes it's not football season. I said, so what? People care about football every day. You don't alienate anybody by talking about football. And they're like, well, what about hockey? It's like, nobody cares about hockey. People might care about hockey during the playoffs. You could talk about hockey during the playoffs if your team is in it. Otherwise, no one cares. And I always said, remember, our job, and by the way, the ratings have always followed, our job is to talk about things that people care about. Now, fortunately, that overlaps a lot. Like, I love football. So almost every day you're going to hear me talk about something having to do with the NFL or college football because there's always at least one of those stories out there. As a consumer, if I'm riding around in my car and I hear someone say, hey, for the next 15 minutes, we're talking about the NHL with our NHL expert, I turn the radio off or I change it to something else. I'm not claiming that I'm some perfect arbiter for what larger societal taste is, although I will say that I'm really good at it. I just think I'm a normal dude. And I have a good sensibility for what normal guys want conversation to sound like. And you can criticize me as much as I want. Smart, original, funny, and authentic works. And if it didn't, we wouldn't have built OutKick from nothing to where we're going to have a stage at the Super Bowl with 17 employees in New Orleans this week coming up. Addressing the issues that people care about is the number one job of any media company that aspires to have any kind of substantial audience. Again, I could talk about polo. I could talk about lacrosse. Those might be passions of mine. Nobody cares. Good luck going on the radio and saying, hey, big polo match going on today. Everybody turns it off. Got to talk about what people care about. But also, if you're a politician, the job is the same. You got to fix the problems that people tell you need fixing. And Democrats are basically saying, no, we know better than you what the real issues are. This was their whole thing with, you just don't know how. Remember they tried Bidenomics? They're like, no. You just don't understand how good this economy is. Really? Really? You want to tell the average guy or gal out there who's seen prices go up 22% during Joe Biden's tenure at a rate that exceeds their overall wage growth that they don't understand that they have less money when they leave the grocery store than before Joe Biden came into office? No, I think you're totally out to lunch here. I don't think you understand anything at all about what's going on. And this is why I would encourage everybody out there. Also, be skeptical of the media that you read. I'm reading the newspapers this morning, and I'm seeing like Chuck Schumer videos with him holding an avocado in one hand and a Corona in the other, saying most beer comes from Mexico and your guac dip is going to cost way more at the Super Bowl this weekend. Trump is moving at the speed of business, even faster than most businesses do, and the Democrats are moving at the speed of government. And the result is Democrats are one or two steps behind where Trump is. We saw this with the Colombia feud when Trump said, hey, if you're not going to take our migrants that were returning, that illegally entered our country, then you are going to pay the consequences. We're going to immediately raise tariffs. Democrats immediately took to the Twitter streets and they said, oh my goodness, it's almost Valentine's. Your flowers are going to cost way more. Your coffee's going to cost way more. This is unacceptable from Trump. Colombia's president bent the knee before the news cycle could even be completed. Same thing happens. Wake up this morning, stock market's down 2.5%. Trump's proposing 25% tariff on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada. What happens? Mexico's president bends the knee, sends 10,000 additional troops to the border. Trump says we're going to pause the tariffs for 30 days and see whether or not you stop the flow of illegal immigrants into the country and whether you also start to interdict more so the flow of fentanyl into our country, which is killing nearly 100,000 people a year on average over the past several years. You are poisoning our country with illegal drugs that are killing people. And there are going to be consequences for this. Stock market immediately turns around. As I'm speaking to you right now, it's basically back to flat. Down. Dow's down, as I'm talking to you right now, 0.2%, 87 points. It's basically a non-moving day. Don't overreact. Trump is an expert at negotiation, but more importantly, he's an expert at leverage. When you are the biggest, baddest, most successful country in the world, you have a great deal of leverage. You don't have to strike deals that are not beneficial to the larger country. Look, leverage defines all deals. How much does somebody want something? The reason why pro sports franchise values keep going up is not the underlying economics of what the valuation of the franchise produces on a cash flow basis. It's because really rich dudes want to own teams. Just like you can't justify a New painting. By the way, they think they may have found a new Van Gogh. $50 up at some Minnesota garage sale. But you can't justify a painting based on anything other than a rich dude wants to hang it on his wall. That's how valuations for franchises are going. Rich guys, and we are the richest country, get to set the rules because we can allocate resources that other people can't match. You ever done a charity auction? I do charity auctions now, off and on. Been buying things for the last 7 or 8 years at charity auctions. Every now and then I look over at somebody I'm bidding against, and I'm like, that dude is way richer than me. I don't need to get into a bidding war with him because he can afford to pay way more than this product is worth. But also, if I'm in a bidding war with him, he may just decide he doesn't want it that much. Maybe he's just driving up the price for charity, and at some point he walks away, and I'm left holding the bag. And you got to know who you're bidding against. Same thing is true in all negotiations. If somebody is a billionaire and they want to buy the same house as you, unless you're a billionaire, you ain't getting it. We are the wealthiest country. We should be setting terms for Mexico and Canada. They benefit far more off of trade than we do. Why should we take a big deal, a bad deal, just to be nice? Trump is a zealous advocate for the United States. That's what we hired him to do. And I think when you contemplate it in that way, it makes more sense. Let me give you another example. There have been lawyers I have negotiated against that I have thought, man, this guy is a total dickhead. But also thought, but you know what? If I have to hire an attorney going forward for some sort of issue, I wouldn't mind having this guy on my side. He's really good. I want him to be my jackass who's driving the cost up for my opponent. I want there to be consequences. I want the best guy advocating for me. In my business, a lot of people have agents. I've had some really good agents. Great agents are your advocate because their job is just to get to max dollar and get the best possible situation for their client. Their job isn't to play nice. They don't have to come in and have a relationship. It allows a level of remove between you and negotiating, and you know when you have a good, zealous advocate and not. And my thing on this is Trump is the perfect advocate for the United States. And everything that's being done right now is about trying to get the best deal for the country. Trump is basically our broker, our agent, our lawyer, our advocate going out to the larger world and saying, we're not going to get taken advantage of anymore. We haven't been getting paid our fair share. Now it's time to redo the deals. And once you start thinking about that, I think you can understand why, for people who have done any kind of business, they actually respect Trump. And people in media, they don't understand him. Because most people in media never really engage aggressively in business. And most people in government don't really understand it. So you have Democrats trying to chase Trump, and by the time they're criticizing him, he's moved on to something else. Like, entire newspapers were filled this morning with, oh my goodness, what's a trade war with Mexico going to look like? And then by noon, the trade war with Mexico is over, and we've won. And our border is more secure, and hopefully there's going to be less illegal drugs coming across. And if that's not the case, Trump in 30 days can reinstitute the tariffs that he put in place and was prepared to introduce. All right, last thing for today. Beyonce won a country music best album, and then I believe she also won best album of the year. She has something like 34 Grammys. Adam, you can do a fact check on that, and if you would, put that in context with other historic performers and how many they have. I think Beyonce got 11 nominations is what I saw. I may have flagged this on my phone and screenshotted it. I believe Beyonce got more nominations for her country music album than Michael Jackson did for Thriller. Let me repeat that. Thriller, one of the greatest, most iconic albums of all time. I believe that Beyonce, for her country music album, got more nominations for it than Michael Jackson did for Thriller, which is unbelievable. And so as I break all of this down, this is, and I hate to say it because I feel bad, I'm not a country music savant. I am tone deaf. I have told this story before. I sang chorus in high school. My chorus professor, teacher at Martin Luther King Magnet High School, James Scandrick, looked like a black boss hog, bald guy, dead ringer for Boss Hog from, felt like to me, from Dukes of Hazzard, except the black version of him. Also drove around in a Cadillac, to my recollection. He paused in front of me. I was in the bass section. I've got a booming voice, thankfully. And he told me, no, you mouth the words from now on. He said, you have a great voice. You can walk up and you can announce the songs that we will sing, and then you just go right back into the bass chorus. Your voice is so out of tune, it's not going to work for you. I can't sing, okay? I'm tone deaf. Many of you know that I am the greatest flautist, greatest flute player of all time, according to AI on the internet. But some of you say, okay, why do you care? It's an award show. Well, I care because the idea is to reward the best. And for many musicians out there, winning a Grammy Award is a sign that your work has been appreciated at the highest levels and that you matter in the musical pantheon because your work of art that you have theoretically poured your heart and soul in is the best that anyone has done in that particular year. That wasn't true for Beyonce. That wasn't true for her in country music or in the larger nation. And if you're a Lainey Wilson out there and you have done as many things as possible in the world of music, rewarding someone for work that isn't supremely talented or the best is like saying Will Levis is your NFL MVP this year. Well, you could give Will Levis the award, but he was an awful quarterback compared to most of the other people doing his job at a high level. We can argue about Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen, but Beyonce getting the country music album of the year and then the album of the year at the Grammys was like, to me, if the NFL suddenly gave Will Levis the NFL MVP. It just makes a mockery of the existence of the reward and of the achievement. Beyonce now 35 nominations. 35 Grammy nominations. How many does Taylor Swift have? And confirm for me that I'm correct that this crazy Cowboy Carter, I'm going to Google this myself, that it actually had more nominations than Thriller. I mean, come on. Thriller, one of the most iconic albums of all time. Yeah, sorry. Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tied Michael Jackson's Thriller for most artist Grammy nominations from one album. Let me pause here for a minute. Thriller and Cowboy Carter are the two greatest albums in the history of the Grammys. This is evidence of how, I hate to say it, but how DEI works. They go and do something radical that is unsupported by the underlying talent. Give Beyonce Country Music Album of the Year. When someone like me comes out and criticizes it, they say, oh, this is an example of racism and sexism. And then a lot of times they try and cancel somebody like me for questioning their woke cultural choices. It doesn't work on me to cancel me. If anything, it just makes me stronger. I've come through the fires of cancellation, come out on the other side. They can't get to me. You guys have my back. Audience will follow me anywhere I go. That's what working hard for 20 years does to you. It makes you hard to define by any one opinion. You don't have to be a musical genius to say Thriller and Cowboy Carter are nothing at all remotely similar. Thriller is truly one of the greatest albums that has ever been created in American musical history. I don't care whether you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic. Go listen to Thriller. People will be listening to Thriller 100 years from now. They will still be playing some of those songs, I would wager. There's nothing on Cowboy Carter that's going to be played 5 years from now. There's nothing on that album being played now. It is a DEI-focused award. And here's the problem. Beyonce hasn't been discriminated against. She's actually been rewarded more than any artist ever for being a black woman. Taylor Swift, look, I've ripped Taylor Swift a lot. Taylor Swift is way more talented than Beyonce. She sold, I'm pretty sure, way more albums. She sold out way more stadiums. Taylor Swift has only had 14 Grammy nominations, according to Adam. Adam, don't lead me astray here because I got no idea. Taylor Swift is 5 to 10 times the talented artist that Beyonce is. And she's got 1/3 of the nominations of Beyonce in the Grammys. Michael Jackson only had 13 Grammy nominations. I'm sorry. I get Beyonce has been around for a while. Michael Jackson kind of had a long career too, from the Jackson 5 all the way up through his career. He only had 13 Grammy nominations. Beyonce's had 35. You can't tell me that's not diversity DEI. It's like Kamala being the presidential nominee. Wins. Now, Adam's getting me all screwed up here. This is not complicated. Adam is panicking. Nominations and wins. I just need a basic text giving me the data. The idea that Beyonce is in some way justified in winning Cowboy Carter, she didn't get nominated for the CMAs. I'm telling you, there's going to be stories. They may cite me. Oh, Clay Travis is racist and sexist for calling into question. No, I just think excellence should be rewarded no matter what your race is, and that should be the aspiration of excellence. And I get it that it is arbitrary in some way to measure art, right? That is a arbitrary measurement in some form. It's not like a basketball game or a football game where you're like, this team was better than the other. We can objectively have them compete. There's just no way to actually break this down and say anything other than this is the Kamala Harris of everything. All right, Adam now is giving me the totals. So overall, oh, good Lord. Beyonce has 35 wins, 99 nominations. No one has ever been nominated for more Grammys than Beyonce. Stevie Wonder, 25 wins. Jay-Z, 88 nominations. I mean, who hates Taylor Swift here? I don't even see her on the list for nominees. Like, why does Taylor Swift not have... Anyway, this is, to me, maybe I need to do a longer form dial in on this, but this is like Kamala being the nominee. At some point, the desperation to bend the knee and praise Beyonce has far exceeded any remote possible defense of her overall talent. All right, so Michael Jackson, 13 wins. Taylor Swift, 14. Beyonce, 35. So Beyonce has won more Grammys than Michael Jackson and Taylor Swift combined by a substantial amount. Whatever your musical background is, how can that be remotely the case in a reasonable, fair, legitimate musical arena analysis? It's crazy. Musical expert, flutist extraordinaire, I'm Clay Travis. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. This has been OutKick the Show. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow, and I'll be live with you from New Orleans Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the Super Bowl. Thanks for all your support, and go buy your wife or girlfriend one of those Kanye wife dresses. Whew. I'll see you guys.